Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Beauty Connective Podcast, where beauty professionals all over the industry are coming together to grow, connect, and get really real about what it's like mixing business with beauty. Today, I'm joined with Gabrielle Martinson Herrera, and she's here to talk all about instructor programs here in Utah and overcoming some really huge obstacles that she's been through as a nail tech. Start us back sort of from the beginning of your journey. I know you've been through it and overcome a lot to be a nail tech and an instructor here in Utah. Where did you start?
So really all of my background was in education, studying in college, studied education at UVU. Loved education, loved art, studied art in Europe. So it kind of seems like something I would have naturally fallen into, but that's not actually the case. So nails was this outlet for me as a young person, getting my nails done, loved it, but didn't think it was going to be a career. However, I got into a point in my life where nails were actually the thing that saved me. It was a really vulnerable time for me in my life. I was recently divorced. I was married at 19, divorced by 22, had a young son, and I ended up in a really abusive relationship. And it's really easy to say, like, why didn't you leave? You know, why are you letting this happen to you? But those are all very victim-blaming mentalities. And for me, I knew I needed to do something to get out, and nails was that avenue for me. I was being, abused in all sorts of ways you can't even imagine. And out of this was partner rape. I was pregnant with my daughter. I had to go to nail school to find a way to get a trade and survive. And I needed something that my abuser was not going to be able to take from me. So I needed an escape plan, and nails was that escape plan.
Wow. I'm so sorry that you went through all of that. That's just so heavy. And amazing that you've been able to overcome that. What did that look like? What was that process like, getting out of that relationship, and how was nails your kind of savior?
For me, it was having something that couldn't be taken from me. And I said, well, what can't be taken from me? A skill, right? If I know how to do nails, I can work from home, or I could go work in a salon, or I'm not worried about a place where, he's going to show up and get me fired. If I can do nails from my own home, I can move out and go and do my own thing. So I attended MTech during COVID. I graduated during COVID. My daughter was a newborn, and that was really tough, but it looked like it was actually going to be the perfect time for it, because when you have a newborn baby, you're in school, you qualify for a lot of government assistance programs. So I was able to use DWS, which is the Department of Workforce Services. They helped me pay for daycare for my daughter while I was in school. So that way I wasn't really paying a lot of money to have my daughter taken care of. And then I knew she wasn't with my abuser. She was at school at daycare. And I was able to go to school every day and do the school's 300-hour program, and then start working in salons. And I think that maybe I wasn't as determined to leave until I actually started working in salons, because then you're working with women all the time. Obviously, there are men as well, but you're working with predominantly women. And I had two very distinct experiences working in salons. So I had, first of all, the experience of, I'm coming to work, I'm covered in bruises, and girls notice. They see these things. If you're working with massage therapists, they're going to see bruises, they're going to see things happening to you. And I distinctly remember the one occasion where one of the massage therapists looked at me and she says, "Do you need to come home with me?" And I had to educate her in that moment while I was going through my own problems. And I had to say, I love you so much for asking me that. That's like what this community is about, like women being there for each other. But the most dangerous time for a woman is when she's trying to leave. And that's when she needs the most support from anyone, especially from other women, right? And I also had the opposite experience working in salons where you'd hear girls say stuff like, "I don't know why you stay with him. If he's so bad for you, why do you stay?" It doesn't feel like that in the moment. They're not abusers from the very beginning. They don't beat you day one. They love bomb you. They take care of you. They help you through your breakup, or they provide for you, or they're nice to your other kid at first. It's all of these little things. And then they turn like a light switch on you, it feels like. And then you turn around and you're like, oh my gosh, it's gotten so much progressively worse. So working in these salons and hearing both of those sides, I decided I need to be I need to be the kill 'em with kindness, right? I need to change that narrative and show people that that's victim blaming. You're not supporting other people. And I said, I want to make sure that I can help other people. And that is part of why I actually started offering apprenticeships, is I wanted to offer an affordable program where women who might not be able to do a traditional, 9 to 5 schedule for school could still get their license. And I'd say probably of my 17 students, both current and graduated past in the past 2.5 years, I've had quite a few who just couldn't do the traditional school. So after working in salons and then opening my own salons and doing a lot of things, I decided to kind of focus on that. And things change over time, right? But that was initially how I started.
Dang. So you kind of had a little bit of a, seems like, perspective shift once you started on your nail journey. And I'm curious, just because you had different experiences with different women in different salons, kind of getting different messaging coming at you. What was it that helped you finally get away from that relationship?
When it was, I won't name drop, but I'm going to say something and it's going to sound like a name drop, but the salon burned down. And it really forced me to go, oh, am I going to really push and start the instructor process? Am I going to really try and get my instructor's license? Am I going to be a better nail tech? Am I going to get out on my own? And that was like the final push. Yeah, I had broken up with my abuser at that point and was in a new relationship, but I don't think I'd fully committed until after the fire. And I mean, I lost all of my stuff in the fire, never got anything back. And I said, I can do this. That was like my pushing point, right?
Wow. Dang, a fire. The whole salon?
The whole salon.
Burned down.
50 employees. Not my salon, but the salon I worked at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. How have you been able to, just because of the unique situation that you've been through and obstacles that you've overcome, how have you seen that sort of give you a place to help other nail techs?
Oh my gosh, it's this whole idea of, if I can do this, I can do anything. And maybe it's that gene that some people have that says, how hard could it be? Maybe I've just got that gene down bad, but how hard could it be? As a joke, sometimes I man hate a little bit and I say, how hard can it be if a man can do it? If a man can do it, I can do it. But really, I think what I'm thinking in my head is I'm just as capable as anyone else, right? And so seeing that others could do it, I knew I could do it. I'm smart, I'm capable, I'm strong. And that's what I really want people to understand about all of this is, yeah, it's a lot of drama. It's a lot of scary things that I went through. It's a lot of hardship. I mean, in my very first salon, well, my second salon, I went home crying every single day. I sat in my car and I bawled, and it was so hard. I didn't really fit in. It was cliquey, and that happens just naturally, right? When you're in a group of people, and I just wasn't the same. I wasn't the same demographic. I wasn't the same background. I didn't have the same life experiences, and they had their own group, and I was kind of my own thing. And that was really, really hard.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you get a lot of people together, working together, and especially in the beauty industry, I think it's just so personal, and you end up sharing a lot with these people, and
right,
day in and day out. And yeah, you can see how a lot of drama would stir. And from there, I know you've built a lot. Walk us through kind of like what you've built salon wise and salon suites and doing apprenticeships since you started.
Right. So I'll work my way backward. How about that? So I was kind of thinking I'd do it from the front, but let's do it from the back. So now my latest project is my instructor school. So the state of Utah is opening the opportunity for people who are already licensed for at least 6 months to go into a school that's licensed either through the state or through a national body and get their instructor's license. And so that's my current project. And while I do that, I'm managing City Center Nail Salon in Provo. So very cute little setup. It's in an old pioneer house. I managed that. Before I did that, I had my own 3-suite salon. I had 3 suites, and then which are pretty big, and then a kind of main waiting area. And I rented that property and then leased out those rooms and desks. And that was really, really fun. I did that for a year. And then prior to that, I had 2 suites, which started as 1 suite and expanded out into some more space. And that was at Kalos in Orem. Awesome team. I just needed a little bit more space, right? And then before that, I had my home salon because this was right after the fire. So a couple salons, fire, out on, at my home salon, then 2 suites, 1 suite, then 2 suites, then my 3 suite salon, and now managing so that I can get this school kind of up and running. So it's a lot of steps, but I had a plan, and I had my 5-year plan. And actually my 5-year plan was to open a school. I did not think it was going to be an instructor's school, but on my day to day, I would say I help now probably more instructors than techs. I mean, I have my students, I have my booth renters who love to learn. As my apprentices are learning, they feel like they learn a lot, which I love. I love that they feel like they learn a lot being in the salon with me and my apprentices. But I definitely did not expect the school to be an instructor school, but here we are.
Amazing. And before we jump into kind of the instructor side of it all, I want to ask you if there are any women out there who find themselves in an abusive relationship and, wanting to get out, what would you say to them?
There are way more resources than you think. And that, looking back, I wish I had realized that. I did use a lot of resources, but I didn't even scratch the surface of what's out there. There are so many places you can go. There are so many people that you can turn to. And sometimes it's really demoralizing to ask for help. And we feel like we can't ask for help. At the very minimum, send me a message. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police officer. There's a limit to what I can do. But if there's something that I can do where I can refer you for help, please ask. There are resources everywhere. There's resources in hospitals. There's resources at DWS. There are online resources. There are crisis lines. Just don't be afraid to ask for help. And someone will believe you. And I won't cry, but someone will believe you. They'll help you. You just have to look and ask. Even just starting with if you have kids, get daycare for your kids. If you're working as a nail tech now, just be open with people. I think you'll be surprised at how many people will open their home and their heart for you. Told you. You'd be surprised. There are a lot of really good people.
Yeah. And if they do, I know, one thing that keeps people from leaving relationships is just the fear of finances and things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
And, if they do have their eye on the beauty industry, what sort of advice would you give them, or, encouragement there as a pathway for them?
I mean, I paid my dues, as kind of, so to speak, right? I worked in salons, and I just took every single thing that was given to me. And it might be rough at first. I know it was for me for the first couple of years. I'm really grateful, so grateful for the opportunity that I did have to work in these salons. And regardless of the bad experiences I had, I'm really grateful because I have about a half book of clients, and most of them are ones who wanted to stay with me after I left. I didn't have to hunt them down. They hunted me down and said, I'm following you. So just take every opportunity that you're given. If you find an opening in a salon, take it. If you have any opportunity to create online courses or to do any of those things, do it. Do anything that you can to get out and claw your way out. Work as hard as you can. That's how I did it. And I wish there was a better option. I really do. But just look at those resources too.
And there's so much potential within the nail industry and the beauty industry. There's so many ways to expand, and that's what you've done.
Absolutely. I got my eyelash and eyebrow technician license in January. Started that at the end of last year, and I did that through an apprenticeship, and that was incredible. I'm so glad I offered all those services. Well, I started offering all those services. I'm just really, really excited for all the new potential that's happening. And there are so many things you can do in the beauty industry, especially in Utah. There's a little bit of something for everyone, whether you want to teach or you want to create content or you want to specialize in nail art. There's so many things you can do.
Totally. And you've taken the path of educating and now educating educators. And let's talk a bit about this because you've kind of spearheaded some leadership in Utah with educators that we've needed, because there's a lot of confusion right now around nail apprenticeships, and there's been changes that have been happening this year.
Absolutely.
And just a lot going on with that. So talk us through kind of like how you started getting involved in that and where you're kind of at now with it.
I think it was a little bit of the social justice autism, that dog in me that said, I like the law, I like the rule, I want to follow the rules, I want to stay out of trouble, but I want to do it right. And I see with how many instructors are out there and with how many programs are out there and how many nail techs are out there. I mean, we've got to be pushing 11,000 licensed nail techs in Utah now. I saw there was a big lack in training and that people didn't really know what they were required to teach. People, it's just that disconnect of education, right? So I looked at that and I said, how can I help instructors? I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. They haunt me, and it's not even anything illegal or anything super bad that I did. I just wasn't the best instructor. I didn't know what I was doing. But in that, I realized it's because nobody knows what to do. There's no plan for success for instructors or nail techs. There's no state support, and don't cancel me, but continuing education in Utah sometimes is really bad too. Sorry, not sorry. There, you have to get the right programs. And even a lot of apprenticeships, and you've touched on this with Haley in your podcast before, but it's either oftentimes a money grab or you're going to a school that doesn't teach you really anything about the real world. So you're only getting one of the two things. You're only getting either a lot of book work and acrylic mannequin hands in school, which I went to school. I liked it, but it wasn't something that prepared me for the real world. Or you're getting, too much hands-on and you're not really learning the chemistry. You're not learning product safety. You're not learning those important things that you should know on a scientific kind of wavelength,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's not really any guidelines from the state of Utah as for what an apprenticeship should look like.
And going back to your question, sorry, I went off a little bit, but going back to your question, the state has changed. It actually did. So what happened was last March, they went and created, they being legislators, use clear language here, legislators. So the Senate, right? Utah Senate, they had this bill, it's SB 330, and they said, we're going to basically revamp the entire cosmetology licensing, all of the laws regarding that. So we're talking about statute, we're talking about law. So they changed the law. But what they did was they put an effective date for January 1st, 2026. So I didn't even realize this was happening until, oh my gosh, I taught my expo class in September. I found out shortly before that. So probably in August, I realized, oh my gosh, they're literally changing every single thing about cosmetology in Utah. There's not been a change like this since I think it was 2000 or something. It was over 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And no one knew. No one knew that the amount of apprentices you can take were changing. No one knew that we have a very strict curriculum now. No one knew that we have service counts now. So this is, to answer your question, the changes, right? Mm-hmm. It's service counts and it's required theory and practical hours. So before, we had a list of things that you had to teach during your apprenticeship. And we had a minimum of, you have to do 10% of your hours in theory before you can touch a member of the public. Basically, that was it. And you had to touch on all of these things. Well, now it's broken down. What happened was they looked at it and they said, okay, and they're still doing this. They're still creating these service counts. But they looked at the service counts and they said, you need to do, for example, I don't know them all off the top of my head. I have all my notes, but 10 manicures or whatever it is. And each of those manicures need to be an hour long. There's a disconnect because they don't really understand how our timings work or those things. They try, but they don't really know because they're mostly members of schools. The board is mostly members of schools. And we don't have any representation. But these service counts, they tell us what needs to be done, what they need to learn, how many of them they need to do. It's also the same for eyelashes. So for my eyelash apprentice later this year, we're doing, we're following the rules of this is how many waxes of the eyebrows you have to do. This is how many waxes of the lip you have to do, all of those things. But that has changed. You do have to account for those hours now. So they are trying to do something about it, and I'm here for it. Mm-hmm. I'm here for that. And mostly I'm here for, let's make instructors be a little bit more qualified. They don't just get to say, I've worked in this full time for this amount of time. Here, I passed my test, give me my license. They have to either do an on-the-job training program, which many schools have now, or they have to do a course, which many schools are going to add as soon as these last little changes are finalized.
So some of these changes are good news.
Yeah.
Obviously, to have more structure in the apprenticeships themselves and to keep things more,
it's accountability.
like
too.
overall, like make sure that everyone's doing the same things, that everyone that's going through an apprenticeship is getting the same thing out of it, which is sort of like one of the big things that we've seen over the
huge.
past is that, people are leaving nail apprenticeships with all sorts of different skill levels and understandings. So that is good. However, it sounds like the way that everything has rolled out has been not streamlined at all and really confusing for instructors.
I'll use my voice for a second here and use your platform to put this out here. If you do not know how the laws and rules and apprenticeships and schools and licensing work, this is how it works. There's law, and that tells us the general things of what we can do. In the law, they say we let the licensing board choose the little rules, and we call those administrative rules. So administrative rules really dictate like our day-to-day, what we're going to do with our curriculum, with our students, with our education, with our schools. And then those administrative rules, they have to have the board appear and say, here, we're opening the discussion for the public to talk about. So if you don't like something and it's an administrative rule, get on a board meeting. Here's how you do it. You go to the public notice website, you sign up for public notices from DOPL, from the Cosmetology and Related Trades Board. You sign up for that. You get an email every time we have a board meeting. Next one's May 11th. I better see you all there. Get online, show them what we're about, tell them we're going to be here. And by the way, it's gotten really, really big now. I've got a lot of people coming on these meetings.
Yeah.
So sign up for public notices, attend board meetings, email your legislators, look up SB 330. That's the bill that changed everything for us. That is the cosmetology change bill. Look it up. Look at what it says. Find the names of the legislators on there and email them. We have a petition to kind of see if we can't get back some of our apprentices on our licenses because it's very hard for instructors out there right now. It's really hard for us out in the wild. So sign the petitions, look up your legislators, email them, sign up for public notices, and if you need additional help, reach out.
So are the petitions mainly for the changes that were made that nobody's on board with?
The law. Yeah, the law. So the ones that instructors, personally, I feel like in my group chat, all we say is, oh my gosh, we hate the fact that we can only have 2 students on our license because even though I can teach, one on Mondays and Wednesdays or one in the morning and then the other in the afternoon, that still means that I have to wait for them to get their licenses before I can even have my next one start. And so with 6, we used to be able to go, okay, I'm going to teach 2 at a time, and you could teach them both at the same time, right? Kind of how you talked about with Haley. But now you have to only teach one-on-one. And the big issue and I have a Google form. You feel free to submit on my Google form and say, this is what I don't like about the law. This is what I would want to change. Is that when you don't have 2 students at the same time, they can't bounce ideas off of each other and they can't learn from each other. Like think about cooperative learning, right? In school, we practice on each other. If someone doesn't understand a concept, maybe they can explain it to the other person in a better way. And you do not get that if you have one-on-one education. So the number of students and the number of students you can teach at the same time are 2 of the big main issues. And Melissa Hendrickson brought up a good point. She said also the service count times are wrong. I mean, and anybody can correct me, but I feel like most apprentices, they're not finishing a full set in 2 hours. I think like 6 hours, maybe, especially in school, especially when they're first new. That's how we all were.
So some revisions need to be made to these new laws. And at first you would think, oh, one-on-one learning, that will be better for people.
Should be so much better. It is when you are, frankly, an outdated dinosaur who doesn't do this for a living. If you aren't with clients every day, at least a little bit, or you aren't teaching on the floor with students every day, you don't understand why it is important to at least have 2, right? And I don't fault these people because they're not doing it every day, but the rest of us are. So that's why we're making these petitions. That's why we're filling these forms out. That's why we're trying to get these changes made.
Totally. And speaking from like an education perspective, like when I was teaching in the classroom, 12-year-olds, There were times where I could explain something. One kid would get it, 3 kids wouldn't, but the kid that understood it would explain it to the rest of them in a way that they understood.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's something that is hugely missing when you're only able to work with one student at a time.
Oh, absolutely. And I will go as far to say, especially when I'm in my 30s, right? My apprentices are mostly young. And sometimes there's just a disconnect, or I'm not in on the pop culture. I don't know how to explain things in a way. I'm a more traditional learner myself. So sometimes it's hard to explain those things to them, you know, and they can really do that for each other.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone join in on these petitions, join the board meetings, sign up, be there, represent who
absolutely.
needs to be represented, because people on the board, I mean, we're not being represented by actual beauty professionals on the board.
I mean, the board is made up of mainly school owners and school instructors, and that's great for schools. I think that's awesome. I think they absolutely should have representation because they do obviously a larger volume of students than we do in apprenticeships, right? And I do want the quality of education to be good. I went to one of these schools. I know that it can be good, and I loved my instructors, and I think they do the best they can. But that being said, we need some kind of representation on the board. Right now, even the cosmetologist barber spot is vacant. They don't have anyone. At least when I've looked the last time, it was vacant. So if you look at the list, you go to Doppel website, look at the board information under the licensing for cosmetology. You can see their names. You can see, you know, what they are, if they're an instructor or a school owner or rep or whatever it is. You can see that they're on there. And it's not a personal dig at any of them. They're all just trying their best. And they are trying to do the best for, you know, who they represent. But we just don't have that representation. And there are, I think last time I checked, it was something like between 12 and 14 schools that teach nails in Utah. Specifically just nails. There's probably more cosmetologist schools. But if you have, I think it was over 400 instructors, and you only have maybe 2 teachers per each of those schools, that's like, what, 28 instructors? So the other 372 instructors, whatever the number is, are all doing apprenticeships. So why are we not being represented, at least in some capacity, right?
So tell us sort of the gap that you are going to be filling with your instructor school.
Yeah. So with that, with the big old change with SB 330, it didn't initially say that they were going to offer like an option for schools to be accredited for the state, or that they were going to have 75 hours. That's all been changes lately that are being finalized now. So once those changes are finalized, the option to have an actual course for instructors opens up, which is great. We're going to use, you know, My Lady educational materials. We're going to use Pivot Point. We're going to use a lot of really good educational materials to instruct these instructors on how to be good educators. And so with the schools now having that option, it's going to be just like when you went to nail school, right? You sat down, you took courses, you took tests, and you could, you know, pass your test really well. That's what we're going to focus on. My school is going to be a little bit different than maybe what you've seen with like on-the-job programs in schools that are being offered right now. There's a lot of those. Number one, those can only hold a couple of, you know, teachers at a time, depending on the school. Mine's going to be in a little bit larger groups, so there can be a little bit more cooperation with students, kind of how I mentioned earlier. And then it's going to also have the option to take like an apprentice course. So that's kind of in the works, right? We'll add that after we get everything going, but it'll essentially be, okay, well, how do you actually look up the laws for apprenticeships? How do you actually teach, you know, an overview of the curriculum, or how do you teach the theory of manicures? And it's going to go through that. I currently offer it as a workbook. So I made almost a 100-page workbook for instructors now who run apprenticeships so that they can go through it. And Melissa Hendrickson has an awesome one. I did it. I totally recommend it. I don't think she's going to offer it anymore. She said she's not going to, which is really sad. I really, really love that program.
I heard that.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend 10 out of 10. So I have mine now, and it is the one that has the 2026, you know, the new curriculum counts and the standards and all of that, as far as we know them now. So it does have that as well, but we're going to try and add that into the school. So it's going to close this gap of people were just going and taking the test. That's what I did. I'm not downing on it. It's exactly what I did. They're taking the test, they're passing, and then they're applying for their license because they've been a nail tech for a really long time, right? And that's how we used to do it. But now we're going to have a standard for education set. You're going to at least have to take this course. You're going to still have to pass the test. And then for me in my school, we're going to have that option of, do you just want to actually teach apprenticeships, or do you want to teach in a school? Here's the best way to teach an apprenticeship.
One of the biggest messages that I personally want to get across, just in general in nails is that educating about nails is an entirely separate skill set.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad we're talking about this because there's so many amazing nail techs out there. Amazing nail techs. They're great at their job. They're great at client interactions. They're great at nail art. They're just great at so many things. And some of them are good teachers and some of them are not. And that's okay. We all have different skill sets, right? And I'm not going to say I'm the best nail tech. I'm going to tell you right now, there are stuff I won't touch. There is nail art styles I won't touch. There are products I won't touch. I'm very picky. I have a very limited client list. I don't work myself to death. And my application is probably not as good as a lot of other instructors, but that doesn't bother me. The first time I touched nail products was in nail school. So I'm giving myself some grace, right? And I focused more on education. But having 15,000, 20,000 followers and having 70 clients on your client list doesn't mean that you'll be a good instructor. You could be a really great apprentice program, you know, if you put the work into it and you set the time aside for them. But like my friend Haley mentioned before, and your others, it was just because you say you have a program doesn't mean that you sit there and you actually teach your students. And I spend so much time fixing other people's problems, and I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to help. I love that people reach out to me, but mostly I get a lot of, hey, this instructor at this salon is doing A, B, C, and D. Their student came to me, graduated, and doesn't know how to mix barbicide. All day, guys, all day. That's what I do most of the day.
Yeah. There's being good at nails and then there's being good at teaching nails, and they're two separate things.
Absolutely.
What would you say to, nail techs out there who are wanting to like further their career, wanting to maybe step into education, thinking about it? What would you say to them?
Oh, I'm so excited for you. I'm really so excited for you. That's the first thing I'll say. I'm so excited for you. It's so great. I love it. A lot of my students tell me I'm going to be an instructor someday. Super honored. Love that. So happy. But I would first tell you to look at yourself. Look at your learning style. Find what would your teaching style be. Practice on other people. See if this is something that you feel comfortable doing, because it can be really uncomfortable for a lot of people. They're not really, attuned to it, and it might be something you need to practice. But I would look at yourself and say, am I, a DIY queen? And am I amazing? Did I figure out how to do water slide decals in 3 seconds? Am I really good at the hands-on stuff? Do I need to go back and study the science? Do I need to refresh my knowledge on electricity? Do I need to refresh my knowledge on acrylic monomers and polymers? I taught myself dip the other day.
Not dip.
Not dip, but I did. I taught myself dip the other day because I said, I, in theory, know how to do this, but I don't know how to do this. And I want to be knowledgeable, right? So I had to teach myself the hands-on. If you ask me about cross-linkers and polymers and chains, I'd be like, okay, let's go all day. I love the science, but as a hands-on person, I'm not that person, right? And I've learned it all through practice. So I would say, look at yourself and say, are you a hands-on learner? Get somewhere where you're going to get some book work. Are you more of like a natural traditional learner? You did really well in school. Nothing was hard for you. Maybe you need to brush up on your nail techniques. Maybe you need to get some nail art supplies, practice some things before you go and you teach it to someone else. So look at yourself first and see where is your area of opportunity, and then focus on that. And that's same for nail techs, lash techs, those kinds of students. If you're trying to decide between a school and an apprenticeship, look at that as well. Are you a hands-on learner? Do you need maybe more some book work? Go to a school. Are you more of a bookwork person and you need more hands-on? Do an apprenticeship.
And be ready to work hard and put in the hours. Like, I feel like maybe there's this misconception that it's just easy to become an instructor. It's just easy to take apprentices. It's just easy to teach
I was
people.
under that impression. Absolutely. I just Googled my poor first couple of students. To this day, I'm still haunted.
Yeah.
I feel so bad. I'm like, listen, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm really sorry. I reached out to them. I said, I'm really sorry. Please let me know what I can do to continue to support you, because I feel bad that I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So none of us really do. But with these new laws and these things in place, please reach out for help. We'll help.
There's help. There's resources. Be ready to work hard and put in the hours if you really do have passion for educating and want to do that for other people. It
will take you a long time. I mentor a lot of techs now who want to create their own programs, their own apprenticeship programs. Some of them have their license, some of them don't yet. They're just preparing. And it makes me really giddy. I'm like, yes, way to prepare. Like, get your lessons ready, see what you want to teach. And my biggest advice for them is be confident, right? and what you're doing, that will help your students trust you a lot. Be confident in yourself and study until you're confident.
100%. Thanks so much for being here today. Where can everybody find you to follow along with you and your journey and your school and everything?
So many places. I have an open door policy. So if you come Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday to my salon, come on in. Doors open. We're in, it's called City Center Nail Salon in Provo, 282 South, 100 West in Provo. We're just behind the City Center Temple. And then you can visit handstotoes.com if you want to do anything that requires an appointment. And then if you're an instructor, especially, or if you are a student and you're interested in resources, I have all sorts of things at gabriellemartinson.podia.com.
Amazing. Everyone follow along.
See ya.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Beauty Connective Podcast. If you're a beauty professional who wants to help us revolutionize the beauty industry and make it easier for clients to find you and for you to find clients, create your profile today at thebeautyconnective.com.